Hello, dream catchers, and welcome to part 2 of my conversation with author Victoria Christopher Murray. As you know, I'm your host, Helena, and we're going to talk more about the art of writing and maybe a little bit of the business of writing while I had Victoria. She was nice enough to stay, and because, like I said in the first show, I had so many more questions to ask her, but I was so enthralled by her responses to the other questions that I just, didn't get to them. So thank you, Victoria, for coming back. Well, you didn't go anywhere. You just kind of...
Thank you for having me here again.
Yes. So I wanted to pick up with Envy.
Yes.
Going back to the book that just came out in June of 2018. And during that process of writing, you had some challenges.
Yeah, this is the third book that I've had to write in the middle of grief. I lost my mom, and I was halfway through the book. But then she got sick, and it was a very short illness, about a week before she passed away. So I didn't think I was losing her in the hospital, so I was fine with writing. But afterwards, it was really, really tough. And to continue writing and having lost her. But I always use those situations and that emotion to write.
Yeah.
So I was halfway through the book already, and I had to write some hard things that happened to one of the characters.
Yeah.
And I think I was able to come from a place of that. One thing I do have to say is that I was also writing Envy while I spent 11 days in Dubai.
Oh, that's right.
After my mom passed away. Yeah. And I almost didn't go, but I knew she was so excited about that trip. So I decided to go. I didn't want to be so far away by myself during that time. And my sister decided to go with me. So I spent 11 days in Dubai. I was able to do some writing. But it was tough. It's tough to write through grief. But this is what I always want to tell any writer. If you want to take this seriously, you have to write through everything. If you keep treating writing as a hobby, it'll never become your job.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. The difference between seeing it as a hobby versus seeing it as a job.
Yeah.
Mentally, where does a writer have to be? First of all, to realize the distinction.
Yes.
And then to follow through and make that decision that this is something that I want to spend the rest of my life doing it. And it's a passion. So you don't really see it so much as a job as much as...
I don't see it as a job, but I understand that it's my business. It's the way I have this great relationship with food and shelter. And so,
food and shelter?
Girl, I like to eat and I want to have a roof over my head.
Okay.
And I don't get paid unless I write.
Okay.
So writing is my job because writing allows me to have food and it allows me to have a shelter. So I think about it that way. If you don't think about it that way, it will never be able to provide your food and shelter. If you think you have to wait until you're inspired, it will never become something that can provide your food and shelter. It's just like being a teacher. Every day you go to work, and you cannot convince me that every morning you're excited about it or whatever you do. But you get there, and once you're there, you're okay. And the same thing happens as a writer. Once you get there, you're okay. So you got to sit in front of that computer every single day.
It's a discipline.
It's a discipline. Writing is way more about the discipline than about the art.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the discipline then. As I'm trying to break down that whole, it's a hobby versus this is, I'm going to use your word to say your job. So talk to us more about that mindset of when you, let's say you personally, when you realized, or did you ever see it as a hobby? It was always a job.
Well, what's interesting about me is I go from one extreme to the next. So I wasn't writing at all. I always wanted to write. My husband was encouraging me to write. But I let life get in the way. And then one day my husband said to me, you're going to be 80 years old and you're going to be sorry that you didn't write. And that did scare me. And this is what I discovered. We all have a resistance to writing or whatever you want to do. There's a resistance that comes from life, but it comes from someplace. And your resistance is higher than your desire to write. You will not become disciplined until your desire exceeds your resistance. And once your desire exceeds your resistance, then you'll be okay. I don't know how to make your desire greater than your resistance. You can only, each individual writer can determine that. Sometimes it's using fear, like my husband did with me. Or sometimes it's recognizing, this is what I want to do, and I'm getting older, and I won't be able to do it. Or it's just that finally you get sick of doing what you're doing. I always say when we're 17 years old and we go to college, we do what we are supposed to do. And then you turn 40 and you do what you want to do. Any of those things that will get your desire to be greater than your resistance will get you to your passion, writing or anything else.
Well, I hear a lot of writers talk about finding the time. So it's not that the desire isn't there. Like you said, life happens. And so there are these other life priorities and responsibilities that you have. And so that's what...
Nah, I don't know.
You're not buying it.
Not buying that. Because we always find time to do whatever we want to do.
Yeah.
I wrote my very first novel, when my desire became higher than my resistance, I said, you know what? I'm going to write one word a day. I might be 80 when I finish, but I know I can find time to write one word a day. And some days I wrote, she said, and I doubled my commitment. It felt good. But this is what happened. I ended up writing Temptation in 3 months on a commitment of one word a day, because it was the commitment and the discipline of sitting down and sitting in front of that computer. And some days I only felt like writing, she said, and some days a whole page would come out of me or a whole chapter. And so writing is really about, it doesn't matter the quantity nor the quality. Because your first draft should be ugly. You're the only person who's going to see it.
You're vomiting on
You're
a page.
just throwing up on a page. And so it should be that way. And if you keep going back and editing, you will never finish a book. Ever.
Well, that's me all day long.
You will never. Because you're using 2 different sides of your brain. One is a creative side, one is an analytical side. It's easier to stay on the analytical side and edit all day long. It's hard to get on to the creative side. So you feel like you're working and you're not doing anything because you haven't put any new words on a page. So
That's
just
an interesting way to see
you're
it.
using 2 different parts of your brain.
Okay.
And it's when we're more comfortable, because of the way life is, we're more comfortable on the analytical side. So we spend so much time editing. You'll never finish a book. I can guarantee you that.
Okay. All right. Well,
and you know who taught me that? Eric Jerome Dickey.
Okay. So let's talk about him for a moment.
Yeah. He taught me a lot about, he's a good friend, and he's taught me a lot about writing.
Yeah. He's awesome. My favorite book by him is Milk in My Coffee.
Yeah.
Because the way that he revealed the
she
race.
was.
Yeah. I was like, whoa. I mean, that was so masterfully done. And I have read some of his books before that, but that one
I think that was
really,
his third
really sticks
novel
out.
or something.
Was it? That was only his third?
I think that was his third novel.
Oh my gosh, that was
it was one of his
years
early.
ago. Wow.
I think it came out right after Friends and Lovers, but
okay, yeah, and I remember reading that. But he's played a critical.
Well,
part
he was and he's still a good friend. But in the beginning of my career, he was the one that told me, write it. If you keep rewriting it, you're never going to get a book out. Write it. You go back to rewriting. He was the one that also taught me how important rewriting is, that writing is not about writing. It's about the rewriting process. He's the one who taught me. He's very disciplined about the craft. And he's the one who really taught me to have a love of the craft, to always want to put out my very best work. He could be very critical in that way, which is wonderful. because then that always challenged me to be better. But he would spend hours on the phone with me teaching me how to write to show versus tell. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget that conversation. We were on the phone for an hour and a half as he was giving me an example and asking me to repeat back. And so maybe that's where I get my love of teaching other writers, because so many other writers have poured into me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's awesome. So going back to just the writing, and really I want to talk about the environment. I know this sounds kind of a little bit more organic than I had intended to go with this conversation, but the environment is so important as well. What is
in terms
Victoria?
Of where, right?
Yes.
Oh, girl, I could write on Amtrak. I write anywhere. And I actually prefer to write anywhere. I love writing on Amtrak. I love writing on a plane. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is about I know nobody can get in touch with me.
Oh, okay.
And so I could write for long periods of time. I can write anywhere. And I have to, because I write at least one book a year. Most years I'm writing 2. And so I don't have to have the candles and the music. And
some people are just very, very robotic. And I mean, from other authors who have come on the show, they wake up a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
One author said that they have to take a walk, and while they're walking, they're thinking about.
Now, that always is good for me. If I'm stuck on a particular scene, you could ask Rashonda, I'll go out and walk, because then I just go out into nature and take the characters with me. Mm-hmm. And by the time I come back, I've worked out that scene. So I do that.
Mm-hmm. What about music?
I can't write with music on, because what'll happen with music is I'll put the pen and I'll be like, and then I'll be in trouble. So
I mean, but authors who have
I know
music,
people that have to have music
that's like
on,
part of their,
and that's their
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, music is an important part of my books. I'm going to start putting together like a playlist or something, because music, especially Greed.
Yeah.
My new book coming up. Well,
less. I was going to say less.
A lot of music.
Yeah.
But Greed music is like an undertone and really sets the stage. Classical music.
Yeah.
And so I have a lot of music, and so I'll play it to get into the mood of that scene, but it has to be off when I'm writing, because I'll start dancing and singing the lyrics. Mm-hmm. I get distracted quickly.
Soap opera.
Yes.
Rich and the Ruthless. Talk to us about that.
I'm excited about that. Victoria Rowell, remember her? She used to play Drusilla on The Young and the Restless. Mm-hmm. Well, she has her own series now called The Rich and the Ruthless, which is kind of a spoof on soap operas. Mm-hmm. And it's about an African-American owned soap opera called The Rich and the Ruthless. And so all of the drama and, when the studio won't give them enough money, they film in their house, all this stuff that goes on. And so I met Vicki years ago. And when she did this show, she was doing it the first season, and she called me and she said, I want you to be a writer on the second season. And I was like, I don't know how to write screenplays. And she's like, no, you do. And we're going to do this. And I was like, I don't. And she's like, no, you don't say no.
Right.
And it was one of the best experiences ever.
That's awesome.
And it's on the Urban Movie Channel, which is Bob Johnson's. After he sold BET, he now has the digital market, which is the way to go.
Yeah, absolutely. That is.
And so she's getting ready to gear up for her 3rd season. And it's been an exciting time. It was she had a lot of faith in me, and she had way more faith and belief that I could do it than I thought.
Well, is your approach to writing different, or?
It is different because I could write a scene. We just talk about a scene, and I just write it. I don't have to worry about the narrative. Mm-hmm. I just see these 2 characters, and once I've met the actors, I can see them, and then they speak. They're the ones that are doing the speaking. Mm-hmm. So it's a different process for me. And it's a process that I'm using on a new project with Rashonda that you don't even know about.
Oh, okay.
And
Is it okay to talk about?
Of course. I mean,
Excellent.
It's me and Rashonda, and I'm in charge.
Okay.
I'm older. Rashonda and I are doing, and it's going to be hard to explain now, but it will be introduced at the end of this month, in August. But we're doing something called narrative fiction. And it's going to be a show called Capitol Hill, and it's about an African-American woman who is a congresswoman, but one of the first contenders for president, a candidate against Donald Trump.
Oh, okay.
And so she's in Donald Trump's Congress right now.
Okay.
And it's going to be a podcast every week. But we have the actors, and they act out our scripts.
Oh, wow.
And with the sound effects and everything. So we're really excited about that.
That sounds very cool. So the very first show is going to...
The very first show will be in August. We don't know the exact date.
Okay.
We've done the first 3 episodes. So we want to do like 3 episodes, and it'll be every week after that. So we're
sorry. Are either one of you? Are we going to hear either one of your voices?
No. But the cast that we have, oh my God! We wrote this.
You've already casted it.
Oh my gosh, we've
this
already
has been in the works.
5 episodes. We've already taped 3. We have the woman Valencia Hill, who is a congresswoman. Her husband Lawrence Hill is a federal judge who is thinking about stepping down to going back to arguing court cases in front of the Supreme Court. And they have twins, Ethan and Ebony, who are rising seniors, one at Spelman, one at Morehouse. And all the drama of wanting to be the first Black woman seriously considered for a run for office, and this family.
Wow.
And what I love about it, in the Trump administration, and what I love about it is that on social media, a lot of people consider me the CNN of social media.
Yes, you are.
And so what I love about it is that we're almost doing it in real time. And so each week, I think I get to teach a little something about politics and it's very current. So you have the drama, you have the politics. I'm just so excited about this.
I can't wait to hear more about it. So we should be looking out for. Where can we find more information on that?
Yeah, well, we're getting ready to put up all the social media stuff.
Okay.
But it'll be called Capitol Hill Podcast is the website.
Okay.
Because the name of the show is Capitol Hill.
Yeah.
And her last name happens to be Hill. But it's Capitol Hill. Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, you guys are doing so much. Let's talk about Brown Girls Books.
Yes.
All right. So how did that come about?
Well, Rashonda and I have been blessed. When the industry went through all of its stuff.
The shake-up, I call it.
Yeah, and really from 2007 to 2008, a lot of people lost their contracts. A lot of things went bad. And so many young writers were not getting an opportunity anymore to show their work and to be able to get contracts. So we wanted to have the opportunity to give people this opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's what we decided to do. And I love it. It's a lot of work. I always say that God will never let you see ahead of time, because then you won't do what you're supposed to do. Because if I had known it was going to be this much work, I wouldn't have done it. However, we know we're supposed to be doing it. So we have new authors coming out this year. Very excited. It's an exciting time. This is an exciting time for everybody in writing. It's starting to tick up again. And when the music industry became digital, everybody thought that all of these singers and everything were going to lose their contracts, lose their mind, never make money again.
That was the main thing.
Yeah, and then they came up with ringtones.
Yeah.
And they made millions.
Oh, okay.
They made millions on ringtones. And so as writers, we just have to find our own ringtones.
Yeah. That's that, I mean, you're podcasting, you have your own publishing company that's doing well. I mentioned in the first part of this series that your publishing company won the 2016 Indie Publisher of the Year.
That was exciting for us.
And the publishing company has been around
since 2014.
Since 2014.
Yeah.
2014.
So we're still a young company and still trying to find our way. And it's a lot of work for just two people, but we're trying.
Well, you have a team of people.
Yes, we do. We do. But all the decisions with just Rashad and I at the helm, it's kind of tough. So
Yeah.
We have a good team.
And what genre of writing do you?
We have done everything except for poetry, because that's a hard genre to sell, and it's more about the spoken word with poetry. So it's not that we don't like poetry. And erotica, and it wasn't that we don't like erotica, because I read erotica. But we were also doing several pastors and doing their books, and so that was the only
not
reason.
Books about pastors, but
no, actual
written.
Pastors. We have a couple of pastors, and so just so that they would feel comfortable to invite their congregation, that was something Rashad and I sat down and said, what do we want to do? How do we do it? And so that's the only reason, just those two genres. And both of those two genres are genres I enjoy. We had to make a business decision.
Yeah. Something new in season 3.
Okay.
I have these author revealing questions, and looking at the time, I'm not going to be able to ask you all of them.
Okay.
But I'll ask you 1, maybe 2, depending upon how long it takes for you to answer. So, who are your favorite authors?
Oh, well, okay. And I'm not just saying Eric Jerome Dickey, because I learn as I read from him.
Yes.
So he is probably my favorite contemporary author. Besides that, I read just about everything.
Okay.
So, seriously, everything.
Okay. But Eric is your absolute favorite writer. What are 3 favorite books, your favorite books of all time?
Of all time, Native Son.
Okay.
So Richard Wright is probably my all-time favorite author. Man, Child in the Promised Land was one of my... Oh my gosh, you didn't read that?
No.
Oh, I thought that was a coming-of-age story for all of us.
Well, I think I need to add that to my...
I know.
To my list.
What other? The autobiography of Malcolm X. I love that book. There's so many. I just love books.
Okay, and what advice would you give to a new writer out there that's trying to break ground on their writing journey?
I would tell writers 2 things. Writers read. I get a lot of books that I edit. I can always tell if a writer doesn't read. And I always find it fascinating that you don't want to spend time reading, but you want people to read your book. Find that fascinating. I don't know how you do that. That's like preaching, and you're not going to read the Bible, but you want everybody in your congregation to read the Bible. Writers read. It will teach you. It will encourage you. It will motivate you, tell you what to do and what not to do. And writers write. Right. And it doesn't matter the quantity nor the quality. Do it every day.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Victoria.
Oh, thank you for having me
Again,
here.
the time has passed by so quickly, but we're going to have you back so we can get an update on all of these wonderful projects that you're working on.
Thank you, and thank you for always supporting me. For 15 years, girl. You've been there.
Got you.
You do.
I got you.
That's the truth.
So, Dreamcatchers, I hope you enjoyed my chat with author Victoria Christopher Murray. You can follow her writer's journey, again, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit her webpage at victoriachristophermurray.com and catch her Lust, Envy, and Greed series on Lifetime and all of the other ones that are yet to come. And you can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Writers Haven Show. And tune into our YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Sonos, Alexa, SoundCloud, and Spotify channels to stream our shows. So stay tuned for more happenings in the Haven. And until next time, catch fire on purpose.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to theshelterpetproject.org and meet a few who are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener who loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to theshelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education? What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills, the smarts.
Yes, you.
You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Open up your books to page 360.
Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Talking about inspirational quotes.
You gotta believe in yourself. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
Green hat. Red hat. Oops. Red shirt. Blue shirt. Yellow shirt. Oops. Yellow pants. Red pants. Green pants. Oops.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.